What's going on, guys? Sensible Prepper Live with Robbie Wheaton.
Good to be here.
Great to see you here, man.
Sir.
We were out last week. We apologize. Been a little under the weather, but we're back in full force.
That's right.
You guys had a wonderful holiday. And today we're doing the Prepper School Volume 10. We're going to talk about bartering. We have talked about it in the past, but honestly, at this point right now, I think it's a very important subject to talk about. And with inflation and some of the things we're seeing, we really need to talk about bartering.
Dude, sidebar. When I looked up there in the top corner where it's got the note that says barter in SHTF, yeah, not what I saw at all. No.
You just saw what
I was like,
fan. We have our list over there. Really great to have Robbie Wheaton with us from Wheaton Arms. Has an incredible line of aftermarket Glock parts. The flat face trigger for your Glock is the best on the market, and does a lot of different parts and accessories, and does custom gun work. And you can check out WheatonArms.com. We really appreciate Robbie for being here. And also GoMedGear.com if you're looking for medical supplies. Which I highly recommend you have medical supplies on hand.
Absolutely.
I'm going to tell you guys, with all this stuff, with the pandemic, scandemic, whatever,
Scamdemic.
going to the hospital, and we've had my dad recently, some things have been going on, and we go to the doctor, and they'll just say, just go to the emergency room. And it's a nightmare. And so anyway, we've been through we've been through SHTF this whole holiday season with my folks, but things are kind of leveling out. But guys, it's a mess. And so, we need to get more and more independent as possible from what's going on in a lot of different areas. Now, also, we appreciate Sarah Mack for setting up everything. And also, she will be taking some questions. And so if you want to go ahead and start asking questions about bartering that we may not hit, we're going to take a break and we're going to go through some questions. And so she's monitoring that right now. Okay, let's talk about bartering. What in the world? First off, bartering has been a way that man has traded for goods since the beginning of time.
That's right.
I mean, bartering, trading out, I have this and I need that. And, we're kind of switching around. And it's a great way to be able to, we've done trades all the time, especially if you're in the gun world. Always got a gun to trade, and we're going to, figure some things out. And so, bartering, having the bartering skills is something that's really important. Whether you go to a flea market, and that's one place, it's not necessarily even bartering, but being able to negotiate.
Absolutely.
And so part of bartering is being able to negotiate.
Well, the flea market is a great place to go and really kind of hone those skills. You can see something you want, you can negotiate a price for it, negotiate a trade for it, whatever, but it's a great place for you to work on your bartering and negotiating skills.
Right, because typically when you go into a store, they don't like it when you ask for a lower price.
You're probably not going to go into Walmart and be like, hey, I'll give you 75% off on that floor model.
Well, and two, trading around in guns, you learn to kind of trade around.
That's right.
And figure out the best way, to make a good deal. And in most gun shops, when you go in, they're expecting you to have a little bit of a play there. But guys, having the bartering skills, having negotiational skills is going to be more and more important. And the reason why I say that in particular is we have faced unprecedented inflation. And when I say unprecedented, I'm not only talking about inflation, but I'm talking about the availability of goods are very difficult.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. My wife just came home from the grocery store and they had no meat in the grocery store at all. None. She went in there. She was going to get, some chicken and some beef and stuff. Sold out of meat. No meat whatsoever. Yep.
Well, the prices have been going up, guys. And of course, a lot of times us guys, we don't really know, because I try to stay away from my wife keeps me from the grocery store, because when I go, I always bring a bunch of extra stuff.
That's right.
Like ice cream.
All the things we shouldn't buy.
But, being able to, watch what's going on. Now, food, definitely. That's a big one. But we're also seeing vehicles. My wife right now is looking for a car. I'm going to tell you guys, on the used market, it is almost impossible to find what you're looking for. And so, that's just one. Lumber. A buddy of mine just told me he was building a fence. He said lumber has doubled since last year. I mean, doubled. Prices of wood, housing market, way out of whack, especially in our area. People are moving into our area like crazy. There are no houses. In fact, you got a house right now that you're
getting ready to put on the market.
You'll sell that thing in a day, and then
will.
other people will come and make counter offers, and they'll pay way more.
You know, I saw a statistic earlier this week online. South Carolina was the third most moved to state in the country this past year, with almost 70,000 people from out of state moving into South Carolina.
If you're planning to move to South Carolina, don't bring the politics of the place you left to come down here. And that's what we're concerned about right now.
Unless they're positive politics.
And I know a lot of guys that have moved down here that are very positive that have moved here for that reason.
That's
but there are a lot of people that are moving here just for jobs.
Absolutely. This area is growing. You know, our economy and business and everything in South Carolina has really, really grown a lot in the last 20 years. And a lot of people from other states have moved here because of the economy and because of the jobs.
Right. But inflation still affects, even if you have a good economy, inflation is affecting us. Another thing you'll notice is that if you go to your favorite restaurant, we went to a restaurant. It was Sunday afternoon. We went to the restaurant. This place was packed out, and they had 4 servers. That was it. And those girls were running their legs off. We're seeing a labor shortage as well, which is going to mean less goods coming up. So barter is more important now than it's ever been. And so we're going to talk about some things about bartering, some thoughts and ideas. Now, one of the big things, in fact, I saw this on Glenn Beck one time. He was talking about, he said his father said that when it comes to economics, to watch what the rich are doing.
That's right.
Watch what the money that the people that have a lot of means, what are they doing? Right now, they're buying durable goods. I mean, really expensive luxury items. They're buying watches, they're buying cars, land. They're buying things because this is the thing. If I take, let's say I go to the grocery store and there's a can of beans, and last year I paid $1 for it. This year, I'm paying $2 for it. What that really means is that my dollar is worth half of what it was. So my buying power is less. So a lot of people, because what happens is it's continuing, inflation's continuing. So it's eating away at our spendable income. So a lot of people will buy durable items that they can have that retain value so they can kind of counteract the other. And, I've used this story, and I'm going to make this a very brief example, but it's one that's very important. In Russia, when they had their massive collapse, they had this one factory that produced mattresses, and that was what was in the town. They just produced mattresses. Well, all of a sudden, the mattresses, the prices for mattresses started to drop, and people started, their income started to drop, and their ruble was worth less. So they would get paid, and they would run to the bank and they'd cash it in for dollars because dollars were very stable. By the end of the week, their ruble had dropped even more. And so they would use that just for rent or food or whatever they needed. And then when they got paid again, they'd run to the bank and they'd get cash, American dollars. And then after a while, the companies couldn't even pay them. So they started giving them mattresses, and they took the mattresses, the employees, and they would go out and try to sell them. And after a while, you run out of room. And so it's that those durable goods are very important because our dollar becomes worth less. And when we have something of value. Now, one of the first things in an SHTF situation, and what's the most tradable at first, are your skills.
That's right.
Having good skills. Robbie's been a machinist forever. And I mean, he's a gunsmith, so he knows how to do that. Knowing how woodworking skills, knowing how to do certain electrical. I mean, all kind of different skills, medical. I mean, the list goes on. But being able to have some skills to be able to barter for things. I have a friend of mine that's a doctor, and he has people come in, and sometimes he'll have people ask if they want to trade stuff. I mean, he's taking in guns, knives, watches, and so, there is a market out there. But the other thing is just basic labor. And right now, with the labor shortage, you're able to really use your labor. And so let's say I'm low on food, and I go to a farmer and I say, hey, I need some food. And he says, well, get out there and help build those fences. You can do that, and you can barter and trade. So those are two of the most important things. Some of you guys, though, have health issues, have problems. I mean, there are things going on you're not necessarily able to go out and do. So, it's one of those things that, you got to find where you can capitalize. Okay, so the first thing, and this is one that's funny. It's real fun because precious metals, precious metals, some guys will go, well, you can't eat gold and silver. Well, you can't eat lead and brass. I mean, you can't eat it. Now, you can hunt with it and all that stuff. But here's the thing about precious metals. And I heard this recently. It said, this is God's currency. Precious metals, no matter where you go in the world, if you take a silver coin, you can go to Asia, you can go to Africa, you can go to Europe, and it still has value to it. And it's recognizable value.
Well, and it's they call it the gold standard for a reason, because if gold is, just for instance, is at $2,000, it's worth $2,000 in the United States. It's worth $2,000 in Africa. It's worth $2,000 in Asia. That is a standard price that's set for that gold that is recognized worldwide. And the same thing with silver. It has a standardized price that is recognized worldwide as that is the value of that weight of that metal.
Right. But the big thing about precious metals, now, precious metals, I don't necessarily invest. I mean, there's some ways you can invest in precious metals and stuff like that, but we're really not talking about that. One thing I love about having precious metals, and I hadn't even thought about it. We need to talk about our sponsors for a second. Scottsdale Mint. I've been dealing with Josh over at Scottsdale Mint for over 10 years. And a lot of times when we'd have our prepper conferences, he would send silver for us to do as giveaways. We'd do giveaways. He's done a lot of stuff like that over the years. And I just did a video and I talked about Scottsdale Mint there. So Scottsdale Mint is helping sponsor today's episode. So check out Scottsdale. Josh over there, again, I've known him for over 10 years. He's a really great guy. They make coins for over 20 countries in the world. They actually mint the national coins. This is a mint. This isn't some bartering trading house. I mean, this is an honest to God mint. And so check them out. They have been extremely busy and for good reason. And a lot of that has to do it. Now, see, the thing about silver and gold is that I have that tangible asset in my hand. And so let's say that I have the silver, and this guy over here, he has, shovels, or he has some food or whatever. And let's say I have, ammunition. Well, he comes to me and he goes, well, I don't need ammunition. I've got plenty. Or let's say I have a gun. He goes, well, I don't need that. I have a gun. I have some this or that or whatever. It's mating those two together. So what he has to correspond with what you have for your needs. And there may not be, it may be something I don't need. So if I have silver, I can say, look, here's silver, and the value. And then he gives me the goods, and then he takes that silver, and then he goes and buys what he needs, maybe something. So it's a great medium of exchange, and it's been that way since the beginning. I mean, since they found silver and gold. So, this is a very stable way to put things together. So precious metals to me, and one thing I've done is, and it's just one of my, in fact, I got this from my doctor buddy. He said he took his silver and he laid it out and figured out the value to be able to pay all of his utilities, all of his bills and food and everything else, and how long that would last. And so I recommend having a nice stash of silver to take care of yourself for at least like 3 months. And then when you have, and it continues to go up in value, and the more inflation rises, silver right now and gold are being controlled right now. So they're kind of keeping the price down. But once it goes, in fact, in Argentina, a lot of people that had silver, when the peso went straight down to pretty much worthless, people would pay off because gold and silver went crazy in value. They paid off land, they paid off houses, and they did a lot of stuff. And so there's a lot of value to have that. So precious metals, guys, I'm telling you, even if you just have a little bit,
that's right,
you need to have some precious metals. Okay, now we're going to go on now to the next thing that is pretty high on the list, and that would be firearms.
Yep. One of my favorite topics.
Oh, yeah. We love firearms. Firearms over the years. Now, I grew up in the jewelry business. We did custom jewelry. My dad's a jeweler, and we do, and I'm a jeweler for that matter. But, we did a lot of stuff like that. Did a lot of custom jewelry. And people would bring in their scrap gold, and there is value to scrap gold.
Absolutely.
And there's value to, but the one thing I noticed that had the most retaining value, and I'm not talking about like coins for silver and stuff like that. That's on a different level. But firearms retain and exceed their value over time.
Yep, absolutely.
The first Colt 1911 I bought was $350, brand new. Brand new. It was a Series 70. It was beautiful.
I'll give you a really, really good example. A lot of people, they talk about their different investments that they have, whether it's in stocks or whatever, their investment portfolio. But let me give you a little bit of investment advice. Machine guns, okay? 1986 was the last time that machine guns could be manufactured and sold on the civilian market. $200 tax stamp, you could buy an M16, cost you about $1,000. So you have $1,200 in an M16. Right now, today, that $1,200 M16, if you go to any gun store, you can buy the semi-automatic version, the AR-15. You can buy those for $600 to $1,000 for like a base model AR-15. But that Select Fire fully automatic M16 right now, the lowest that you can find price-wise for one of those is about $35,000. So imagine from an investment standpoint, if you would have invested in machine guns in 1986 and bought $10,000 worth of machine guns or $20,000 worth of machine guns, what the value of that would be today.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and that's a really good example of how firearms start at one price and then 10, 20 years later, they have exceeded that price and value by a tremendous amount.
Well, you take the SKS, for instance.
Oh, yeah.
They were coming in at $59 a piece. Yep. When they first came into the country, because it was just a mass. It wasn't that they were only worth $59, because they had so many, they just sold them. And now $350, 500 up to 500.
Same thing with your Mosin Nagants.
Yeah,
that came in more recently. You could buy the Mosin Nagants for $50 to $70 a piece.
Now those are just regular times.
That's right. Yep, just normal prices on stuff. $50 to $70 a piece. Now those guns are going for about $300.
So, firearms definitely retain value. They have value. Mm-hmm. Ammunition comes right under it. Ammunition, it's a consumable. It's something people want. And a lot of people do hoard up ammunition to trade and barter.
And, I think ammunition is one of those things that it's a little more volatile than firearms as far as the prices going up and going down, just depending on supply and demand. Right now, the demand for ammunition is far, far exceeded the company's ability to be able to supply ammunition, and be that from material shortage or labor shortage or, whatever reason the ammunition can't be produced fast enough. We've seen a shortage of ammunition over the last almost 2 years, and it's driven the cost of ammunition up across the board 25 to 30%.
Now, one of the things that a lot of people will say is, well, I'm not going to buy precious metals. I'm going to buy ammunition because it has uses, blah, blah, blah. But let me tell you, in Argentina, again, when they had their economic collapse, a lot of people did have ammunition stocked up so they could trade and barter with it. The problem is the government came in and required a license to sell any ammunition. And if you sold the ammunition, they would come and arrest you if they caught you. So the one thing about guns and ammunition is that it can be regulated. When we talk about SHTF, a lot of people think that it just means going back to the Stone Age and all hell breaking loose. That's not necessarily the case.
That's not usually the case.
No. And one thing that Verfael said that wrote pretty much a documentary about what happened in Argentina is he said, the police may not be there to save you, but they'll be there to arrest you. Mm-hmm. And so, there's going to be a vacuum of force that moves in. Okay, firearms and ammunition. That's something that a lot of us already know about. One other thing that's kind of unique and something to think about is liquor. I did a video on that, survival, and the reasons why having liquor and having it set aside. I mean, you can barter and trade with it. Plus, it's nice to have for medicinal purposes and different other things. And plus, it just gives you a nice, spirit of love and all that kind of good stuff. My phone is like buzzing like crazy in my back pocket. But also tobacco. Tobacco is another one. Anything that people want. Soda. Certain snacks, things like that. Now, those things are not going to last long term. So you have to really think about it. That's one of the reasons why I kind of like liquor. I don't want to store up a bunch of beer and then it just go bad, so liquor and even tobacco can get dried out and things like that. So, if, especially with cigars and things, but those things that people just want, prescription drugs. People will break into your home to get those. But, if you have prescription drugs, you probably want to hold on to those. Okay, so those are some of the big ones that a lot of people kind of lock into. But, one of the things that I noticed, I bought a side-by-side 4x4 Kawasaki T-Rex. And there's a place right up the street from us that has like hundreds. And when all this stuff with COVID happened, it wiped out everything. I mean, it was funny. I went up there, and the day I went up there, I was like, what the heck? And the guy said, we got blown out. That Kawasaki came in that day. And he said, if you want it, he goes, I'm just going to tell you, you want to get it. You want to do it now. And I did. I went ahead and bought it. This was last year. But the thing is, in the past, we have really experienced a wonderful time of supply. We could, if you want it, you can get it. You can just get out there and just find it. You can get it. You can buy it. You can get online. You can go to here. You can do that. And you can buy these things. We're getting into a point now to where there's just not supplies. There's just not stuff out there. And so, there's a lot of shortages. So,
I really feel like this is just the beginning of something that's going to end up getting a lot worse, what we're seeing right now. This is just the foreshadowing of what's to come.
Well, the political environment right now is so against capitalism. And that capitalism is what has flourished and given us all these different technological advances and everything else.
That's what's made the United States the greatest country in the world.
Yes. Yeah. But we're starting to regulate it out of existence. Okay. We have some questions. I'm going to go ahead and just kind of leave it open. If you have some questions, some things you want to do, we'll get that started. But I also want to mention Sportsman's Guide. Sportsman's Guide also sponsors a lot of what we do, and they give you a $20 off every $100 or more purchase using Sootch, just Sootch. And in fact, guys, I just made a purchase. I make purchases regularly and get my $20 off, and it's a great way. Plus,
you got to sign up for their Buyers Club as well. Their Buyers Club, you get additional savings plus free shipping on the majority of their items.
Yeah, and those guys are great. They're great. And they have a ton of surplus stuff.
Absolutely.
And that's another thing to think about is, especially when you're building your preps, is surplus items, military surplus, time tested, proven. And then when they sell it off, you get it at a discount. And so it's a great time to pick up some items that you might need.
Beer Beans Sand Bullets ask, how can you ensure you don't get killed and your stuff taken during bartering alone during SHTF?
Well, that's definitely something to consider. Now, one thing I want to mention here, though, because I wouldn't really want people coming to my house. And, it's even dangerous now putting something on Craigslist or whatever and meeting with
that's
people.
what I was about to lead into. There's a lot of people that barter and trade already. Facebook Marketplace is a huge place where people do that. Craigslist and some of your other online forums. If you're going to meet someone to barter with them, meet someone to trade with them, whether it's now or whether it's during a SHTF situation, it's always a good idea to take someone with you and meet in a public place. So, and that's for your safety as well as theirs. I did some bartering with somebody a couple of months ago, and we met at one of the local police stations in the parking lot of the police station to do our trades and stuff that we had, just because it made the guy that I was trading with feel more comfortable, as well as make me feel more comfortable. So, but then I still took someone else with me. So when we did our trades and everything, there were two people there, and he did the same thing. But, look out for yourself. Make sure that you're bartering and trading in a public place, a well-lit place, and always try and take someone with you.
Yeah. And one thing too, is it's going to happen, especially with, especially if the economy starts to go, are markets.
Yeah.
We have a big flea market. We have a couple of really big flea markets here. And so those kind of markets will open up in different places, and you can go and actually maybe even set up and put your stuff out and trade and barter that way. But yes, Robbie's exactly right. My mother-in-law and my brother-in-law went down to buy a truck. It was in one of the ads or whatever. And they went down, it was about an hour away. And when they got there, the guy wasn't there. And then he called and said, well, I'm here, but I'm around the back here. Of the store. It was a Walmart parking lot, but he was around the back. And they said, well, we're not coming around the back. You can come out here. And he said, well, he kind of ham-hauled. When he showed up with his truck, it was not the same freaking truck on top of that. And so they were really nervous about it, and the guy was acting really funny. So yes, that is a legitimate concern, and you need to be careful.
DLLNMB BMS7 asks, "What's up, y'all? Already have a question. If I have a Berkey, would it be a good idea if I barter clean water for this or that?"
I think that's a great idea, and it's something that actually we've considered as well. So if they have any kind of problems with the municipal water system, or you have a well, and if you have a well, it's another good thing to be able to do, to use that for bartering. But yes, clean water could be in certain situations one of the things that people are dying to get, literally, because you have 3 days without water. So yes, and you may want to have some containers. Go ahead and put some gallon jugs or whatever aside, or you could even have people bring their own. But yes, definitely.
Adam in Alaska asks, "What's the service life for the small keychain can opener? I have those for barter."
The P51s used by the
P38s.
The P51s are the bigger ones. Yeah. Those things are great. They're a pain in the butt, but they're better than nothing.
That's right. It's better than trying to open a can of soup with a pocket knife.
Right.
Yep.
But the thing is if as long as you keep, I've got some from World War II.
Oh yeah.
So they last for a long time.
Yep.
So the big thing is just to keep them in cool, dry storage. If you're using them, or you're going to trade them for barter.
I've got kind of like him. I've got a gallon Ziploc bag full of those things, and I just put oil in the Ziploc bag. I just put regular motor oil in there and seal my bag up. It's synthetic oil, but seal my bag up. That keeps them from rusting. It keeps them from getting moisture and stuff in there, and they go bad and you end up rusting and unusable. So take it out, clean it, and you're ready to use it.
Paul Frank asks, "When using precious metals, are fractionals useful or stick to the 1 ounce sizes?"
No, I like different sizes because, one of the things is you show up and somebody's got some beans, you don't want to give them a 1 ounce, so it gives you a little more flexibility. It's one of the reasons why I kind of lean towards silver kind of heavily. Now, silver weighs more, so that's one thing to consider with gold, but I like to have even recognizable, but definitely I like the coins better than the bullion. But bullion also works because, you may want to make some larger purchases.
FB Drivers Training Network asks, "At what point during SHTF do precious metals lose its value?"
They won't.
The market does trend up and down. So, the market goes up, it's worth more. The market goes down some, it's worth less. But generally, a rule of thumb is if the economy is doing poorly, precious metals do better. If the economy is doing better, precious metals are worth less. And that's just kind of a rule of thumb that you can always follow with precious metals.
But when I was back in the 90s, when I bought a lot of my silver, I paid $5 an ounce for it.
Yep.
Gold was $350 an ounce. So now it's back and forth. I saw it the other day. It's around the mid 20s, and it even went up to $30 this summer. But it's kind of hovering there. But the fact is over time, it's going up, even in a good economy. In a really bad economy, it's going to, and a lot of stores actually during our last little recession that we had, there were stores locally that opened that actually took silver as trade. So, and one thing too is, guys, if you have a lot of goods, one thing you're going to want to do is to be able to keep some value. And even in a lot of third world countries, people have gotten out of their country because they had precious metals to buy their way out, or they had those and it gave it wealth. And if you look at ancient civilizations, a lot of the rulers and leaders had stockpiles of silver and gold, and they used that to buy things with, and it meant their wealth. So just because we live in an SHTF situation doesn't mean that you're going to be just living on the edge of your, like just poverty. You could actually build up some wealth with silver and gold if you have supplies. And too, like if you're a farmer's market, let's say you're a farmer and you're bringing in tons of vegetables. After a while, dude, I can't trade anything on that. I don't need any of this because I've been bringing in all this food, and I have tons of food and people want it. And so having silver allows the farmer to actually accumulate some wealth for what he's doing, because that's going to be, agrarian societies have ruled for a long time. And yes, we've kind of brought that down, but it's something to consider that, silver and gold have this intrinsic value they've always had, and they're always going to have some value. Cash, on the other hand, which I would recommend having cash, having some cash put back, but with inflation, it's going to eat the dollar. It's going to eat it. And so then you're going to lose it. So, okay, we're going to go one more question. We're going to jump back on our list.
Okay. Brad Barton asks, something I don't see talked about often is securing your home. What precautions do you recommend, i.e. preparing windows, coverings, door covers, etc.?
Okay, first off, light. Light is very important. Having lights, in good places.
Layered security.
Right.
Layered security. You start at the outside, away from your home, and you start with a fence, and you build your security back into your home. So you've got layers with like a fence, you have lights, you have cameras, you have locks on your doors. All of those are layers of security to slow people down, to give you an early warning that something's going on outside your home.
We have a driveway alarm. Got it on, well, actually, one of my patron members sent it to me, but it's a solar driveway alarm, and it's at the end of our driveway. And it's about 100 feet up to the drive. As soon as that anybody passes, you can walk by it, the cat can go by it. So I have to set the sensitivity a little bit because that got annoying at 3 a.m. But anytime somebody pulls in, we have a chime that comes on inside the house. The dogs know exactly what it is. Then I thought, because a couple of times it went off, and I'm looking out there trying to figure it out at 3 a.m, got my night vision out and all this crap. Then I got a solar light that actually is a motion sensing light right beside it. As soon as they hit that driveway alarm, then the motion sensor light comes on so I can see. Well, they don't hear that alarm going off, but they see the light. So typically they'll take off if there was somebody out there. Then when you come to the house, we have cameras set up. Because now cameras are so easy to have
and
installed.
inexpensive. Yeah, that's right.
And then the ring system, we have the ring system on top of that as another layer. We have layers. And so I get notifications on my phone. Now, in an SHTF situation where you may not have power, or you may have power. We just dealt with SHTF with COVID, and it was a totally different set of circumstances that went around that. And then you have your regular home security. Then you reinforce your locks. Our doors are metal doors, so they're very difficult to come through. I mean, again, like Robbie said, and he's dead on, is having those layered security. And then, of course, you have your firearms and you know how to use them, and you know your home, and you know if somebody does break in that you're able to deal with it and have a plan ahead of time for your family.
That's right.
It's one thing with our family. I've told them, I said, if we had that alarm goes off, you don't come running out going, what's going on here? Because one time my son did that. It was 3 a.m. He was out, and I came in, and thank goodness I had my flashlight and my gun with the light on it. And he was standing there, and I shined it, right at him. But, I could have, something could have happened.
That's
so
right.
you need to have a plan ahead of time, and you need to think things through. We have done some videos about that. So, just check that out. But security is important. Even parts of your yard, how you like your fence you were talking about, but even have points of defense or cover and concealment that you can maybe get behind in case something, there's some kind of assault on your home. Okay, let's continue to go on down. One thing that I read a few years ago, and it was John Wesley Rawls, and it was a book called Survivors. And one of the things this lady did, she stored up before the economic collapse was starting to happen. She started storing up seed. I mean, she bought a closet full of seed. And her husband thought she's crazy. When everything went to heck and businesses just closed, she rented this little shop and she put all of her seed out. And so people would come and they were like, we need the food. We need, so they wanted the seed. So they would bring her items to trade. And so she used that as her currency. And it was really pretty ingenious, actually. And then before long, she had a whole shop with all kind of stuff, and people would come in, and she would pick what she wanted. And, like radios and batteries and just ammunition, guns, whatever.
Well, and, I tell you one thing that I found is we've been gardening for the last several years pretty regularly, experimenting with some different types of seeds, different seeds from different suppliers. And there is a big, big difference in the quality of seeds that you get. You can go to your big box stores in the springtime, and they'll have all these racks with these pretty packages with all these pictures of, these vibrant pictures of all these fruits and vegetables and stuff on them. And they're like, $2, $3, $4 a pack for these seeds. And the majority of those seeds, they're just junk. You may get some stuff to grow, but most of the seeds that we've got from those experimenting with them, they just don't work. They never produce, they never grow. Just terrible seeds. So if you're looking at getting into seeds, you're looking at gardening as for sustainability, get good quality seeds. That's one of the best pieces of advice that I can give you. Do your homework, do some research online with, the different seed banks that are out there that have really good top quality seeds, and spend the money to get good quality seeds.
And if you're looking for continued sustainability, you need non-GMO, you need non-hybrid seeds.
That's
you need
right.
heirloom seeds,
heirloom organic seeds,
and that you can redo, and which we've been doing, and we've been learning. I mean, there's a lot of learning that goes on, but learning how to harvest those seeds. You could even barter for that. Okay,
That's right.
Food is definitely a big one. Canned food, things like that, to me, are some of the better ones because cans last so long. They're so sealed, and with the processes they use, they last almost indefinitely.
And it's generally things that you normally eat.
Right.
You go out and you buy your canned corn, your canned beans, even canned meats. Make sure you get stuff that's low sodium. The sodium, you can really spike your sodium with some of the canned goods that are out there. But canned goods are generally items that you eat on a regular basis, whether it's fresh or canned or frozen, compared to a lot of the long-term food storage options, whether it's freeze-dried or things like that. Those foods it's not things that you put in your body on a regular basis, and it can cause some pretty severe gastric issues eating things that you don't normally eat. So try and buy canned goods that are items that you normally eat, that you would normally have at dinner or lunch or whatever. Buy those items and put those items back, because your body's used to eating that type of food.
Right. But one thing, you're bartering. So,
yep.
No, just kidding.
Wow.
Now, also,
Chop me off at the knees.
Having salt is really important. Sugar,
spices.
Yep. There's some things that you can barter with. People are going to need salt and need those things to live. So that's going to be one thing. Honey's another good one to barter with.
You can sell the juice out of your beans after you ate them.
Oh my gosh. You might not want to barter with this guy. I don't know. Okay, let's water. And somebody brought that up. That's an excellent choice, is to have water available to be able to trade and to barter. And listen, guys, a lot of times, like one thing that we try to do is to try to put 10% of our preps set aside for giving, not even for barter, but to give. Now, it's according to the situation. If we need something or whatever,
that's right.
But, also don't be so stuck on not being able to just give at times, because giving is important. Okay, tools, guys, you have your tools. Make sure you have a good set of tools, not the cheap, Harbor Freight. You go get you a set of screwdrivers, and then when you're using, there's a lot of stuff at Harbor Freight that I like, but some of these tools, they'll bend. Screwdrivers, you go crack and it bends. You're like, what the crap? You want good quality tools that'll last.
One of the big things that I've been doing probably the last year or so is I'm a total tool nerd. I love tools, whether it's woodworking, metalworking. I am a total tool nerd.
Me too.
But I've started buying a lot of older tools, a lot of older manual tools, like your drills, your saws, stuff that if I don't have power, that I still have tools that I can build things with, that I can still make things with, that I can still repair things with. So I've been buying a lot of manually powered tools, the little hand crank drills. It's so cool. It's just the design and the machine work with those things. It still just amazes me.
I've got a grinder, and you hook it onto the bench, and it has a handle.
Yep.
And it's got a grinding wheel, and man, that thing will hum.
Oh yes.
With the way the gears are set up. So and that's one thing and we've done this before. In fact, I talked about this a while back, is I got on eBay looking for really good quality American made tools, and then started finding some older vintage tools, really well made.
Yep.
And before long, I had tools all over. I had to just stop. I was like, this is ridiculous. But
it can become an obsession pretty quickly.
But there's a lot of tools out there that are really well made. But then you can barter and trade with those tools.
Absolutely.
So we got to be careful not to get into the prepping versus the barter.
It's kind of like the food thing. You're buying it to trade.
Trade, Don. Okay. But tools, and like Robbie said, woodworking, metal, working with metal, that's very important. In fact, I think it was Dave Canterbury talked about it. He said, if you can learn how to manipulate wood using tools. You can build whatever, you can figure it out, however, or metalworking. If you can do those things in an SHTF situation, that is huge. If you can manually be able to produce things, but then you can barter your labor and your skill. So that goes in with tools. Now, next is socks. Listen, the number one thing that whether it's charitable organizations, Goodwill, these places that
help the homeless,
socks are the number one thing they need. They never have enough socks. Socks are going to be extremely important. In fact, a while back, they had Sportsman's Guide had a bunch of military surplus socks, and they're reinforced at the toes, they're reinforced at the heel, and they're warm, and they were new. And I bought like 10 pair for it was really inexpensive. So sometimes you can find things like that, not just the cheap socks you find wherever, but find some good solid socks. And then definitely that'll be something that'll be worth trading, but it'll also be great to have. So, the one thing you want to kind of consider is what are the things that you're putting together for your preps that you really feel like you can't do without. That's going to be a great thing to be able to barter with because people are going to look.
And here's the thing. You buy a size 13 sock, right? It may fit me, but you can still wear it.
Right.
It may be a little big on you, but you can still wear it.
Right.
So you buy the bigger sock that anyone can wear from, a 13 down. Now, if you got a size 14, you're just out of luck. but anybody, but anybody from a 13 down, you're good to go. You've got socks that will fit them and that they can wear.
Now, also in this same genre is the diapers. Now, you may not have babies, but diapers, wet wipes, things like that. Those are going to be hugely important. Even cloth diapers could probably be a better option.
Absolutely.
Because it's something people can, use over and
reusable.
over. Medical supplies, huge. Medical supplies are big. And whether it's ibuprofen, Tylenol, Imodium, the Benadryl, your antihistamines, your basics, but also things like gauze, different things. The one thing, and I think
antiseptics.
Bear Independent did a video recently. And he's got a great channel if you've never watched it. Really, I really like him a lot. They do medical supplies. In fact, I have a couple of their trauma kits I'm getting ready to put out a review on. One thing he does is they take a 5-gallon drum and they fill it with gauze and antibiotic ointments. Because one thing he said was, if you have an infection and you're not able to get to a hospital, it's going to take time and a lot of gauze and a lot of ointment to be able to treat that over time. And so it was just one of those things. I went, wow, that's something I hadn't really thought about. So medical supplies are going to be important, but they're consumable. So making sure that people are going to need them is what I'm saying. Okay. Then you have just your regular consumables like tarps, nails, screws, batteries, things that people just use, but they need. And so being able to, have some supplies on hand.
Right. Wow. One of the big things for me that we always try and keep a pretty good supply of is 550 cord. Not just for personal use, but for bartering as well.
Right.
You can pull it off and cut it in 10, 20-foot lengths, 50-foot lengths, 100-foot lengths, and barter with that, trade that. Cordage is something in a SHTF situation that people will always need, and being able to have extra cordage that you can barter and trade with it's imperative to have that.
That's good. That's a good point. Duct tape, different, and then too, just regular things that you can do repairs with, because repairs are going to be important. The less your dollar's worth, the more you're going to be repairing things instead of going out and buying new things. So anything of value like that, glue, gloves is another one that, can definitely be an issue.
And latex gloves.
Yeah. Or nitrile gloves.
Yep,
Yeah.
that's right.
Latex and nitrile gloves.
I always try and keep several boxes of those on hand, not just for personal use, but for bartering and trading. And, if you need them, you got them.
Right. And really, when it comes down to it, anything that you're prepping for, that you're thinking that could be a consumable, and there are different scenarios. There's the first thing that happens where people are looking for certain items, and then it gets into, if it's an extended period of time, then you have it falls into different items. And so that's, to me, where precious metals again comes back in, because the things that because here's the thing, I can't think of everything. or I can't afford everything that I
Right.
think I need. And who knows what you need? You don't even know what you need. But the fact is if you have a means of trading like this with currency, and that's what I call it, it's just that metal, that precious metal currency, and you're able to buy and sell different things, and it retains its value. So again, Scottsdale Mint, check those guys out, and they're really good, solid people. So I really want to kind of give you a link to that, because a lot of times some of these companies are not, they can be a little unscrupulous at times, but that's one thing that Scottsdale Mint is not. Okay, let's go to a few more questions, and then we're going to talk about some ideas of finding things that you can barter with for reasonable prices.
Paul Frank asks, is it even legal to sell your machine gun these days?
Sure. Yeah. If you're in a state where you can legally own a machine gun, you can sell it within your state, or you can sell it outside of your state. If you sell it within your state, it's a $200 tax stamp transfer, because you're selling to someone that's in your state. If you're selling it to someone outside of your state, it's a 2-stamp transfer. You'll have to form for it to a dealer in whatever state that it's being sold to, and then that dealer will do the form for and transfer it to the end user that's purchasing it. But yes, you can still buy, sell, and trade machine guns today. They just all had to be manufactured prior to May the 19th of 1986.
Yeah, but you can't sell it at the gun show.
You can absolutely sell it at the gun show. You just can't transfer possession at the gun show until after the tax stamp comes back.
Can't just go.
Right. No person to person.
Yeah, you can't go to a public area and just sell it. You don't go to the police department and sell it.
Yeah.
My wife's uncle. In fact, I was on the phone with him the other day, and he has a machine gun, a registered machine gun. And so he's getting up in years, so he wants to sell it.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were talking about all this different stuff. But you can definitely sell it. And of course, you can actually buy them still. You just have to go through the right paperwork.
That's right.
The one thing you don't want to do is have one that's unregistered. Yep. At least get caught with it. That's the main thing you don't want to do.
Whew.
How's your daddy ask, what gun should I buy before moving to California?
You're moving to California? That's
any firearm that you want that is not allowed to be purchased in California, but if you own it, you can take it to California, is what I would look at buying. So, there's like with your Glocks, Glock Gen 3s, you can purchase those in California. Glock Gen 4s and 5s, you cannot purchase in California. If you go to the California Department of Justice website, they have their approved handgun list listed on their website, and that is every handgun that you can legally purchase in the state of California. If it's not on that list, you can't purchase that handgun in California, so you would have to purchase it prior to moving and take it with you, and then you register it once you get there.
And you want to make sure, though, that it's allowed.
Right.
Yeah, because, it may be something you're taking and then they go, nope. And then there you are. You're in trouble.
Like your magazine capacity is something that you're going to have to be concerned with moving to California. What you're going to do with your high capacity magazines that you have, whether they're allowed there, whether they're not allowed there, whether they're allowed or not allowed in the city or county or township where you're moving to. There's a lot of laws in that state that you really need to do some research on prior to moving there with your firearms, just so you don't get yourself on the wrong side of the law.
I'm wishing you the best of luck. Definitely.
Chosen to Preach says, question, I keep buying things for my bug out bag and my family is disgusted and upset because I'm buying before a crisis hits. Am I doing the right thing by making an earthquake / bug out bag?
Let me tell you this. Last year, before COVID hit, I honestly had some thoughts about what I was doing with Sensible Prepper. I mean, the economy was going good. Things were happening, a lot of good signs. And I really just thought, am I just directing people into this craziness? I mean, is this really even legitimate? Is it? This was right before, this was like September of 2019.
Before COVID. Yep.
And I'm walking from my shop and I'm just thinking, and I'm actually praying about it. I'm like, okay, I really enjoy what I do. I love it. I have a passion for it. And I had this real strong peace just to stay on the path. It was really weird. Mm-hmm. It was really weird. Then I do stuff with China, especially with Olight. And so I knew what was going on. I knew COVID was hitting over there. I knew it was coming here. And I started watching it and I was like, Thank goodness. And in March, our channel grew 100,000 new subscribers because people were wanting to know what to do. Listen, it is vital, whether your family supports you or not, to be prepared. I have a lot of kids that'll send messages sometimes. I mean, like 12, 13, 14 years old. That are like, I really feel like we need to prep, but my parents won't do it. And, you know, and they say, well, I make a little bit of money every week and I'll buy a few cans and stuff and put them in my closet. You just, you know, I just want to encourage you, because being prepared, even if you have a bug out bag, a go bag, you have food put back, you can still use all that stuff. It's still things that are not a waste of money because you can use them. And so, and really being able to have your own survive, you know, being able to survive and have the tools you need to survive. One thing I always say is, guys, just because it's an SHTF doesn't mean it's worldwide. It could be a personal SHTF. It could be just you. It could be a horrible day and everything's going wrong. And because of that bag, and I have a video about it where I had my bag, and my bag saved me a number of times on this trip I went to. Just made life better, made things easier. So I highly encourage you to stick with it, because I think it's important.
And it's interesting too that you were talking about an earthquake bag. Here in South Carolina, in the last 3 weeks, we've had over 10 earthquakes in South Carolina. Now, I think the largest one, the largest one was only a 3.3 in Columbia, right outside of Columbia. But we've had over 10 earthquakes in South Carolina. We had another one in Dorchester County last night. But more than 10 earthquakes in South Carolina in the last 3 weeks. Now, that tells me that fault lines are moving, they're shifting. These tectonic plates are rubbing against each other. And, you know, if you're getting a bunch of small earthquakes in a row like that, a lot of times that can be a sign that there's a bigger one coming.
But every area of the world has their own things, whether it's tsunami, tornadoes, forest fires,
volcanoes.
So having a bag, regardless of the economy, is smart. So yes, I want to highly encourage you to continue.
Absolutely.
FB Drivers Training Network asks, would you recommend practicing shooting similar distance to your property line?
Sure.
Or further.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's smart to know, especially if you have longer property lines and you have a rifle set up, is to know your yardage, know your dope, know how to shoot that rifle.
And I always recommend going further than what your property lines are, because if you only shoot to what your limits are, you don't really know what your limit is beyond that. So if you train for a limit beyond that, a lot of times when you come back into a closer distance, it makes that closer distance a lot easier to shoot because you have more confidence in your ability and your equipment.
But training is super important anyway.
Wisconsin 60 Joe asks, does expiration dates on medical supplies like ibuprofen mean it is no good after?
No, it does not mean that. But what it does mean is that it's starting to lose potency.
That's right.
But it still has value to it. My wife, a lot of times when she was a labor and delivery nurse, and after a while they'd take these packs out and they just toss them. And so she said, do you care if I take some of this stuff? And they were like, no, because we're going to throw it away anyway. And so she actually built up a lot of our medical supplies, and some of that was gauze and things like that. But that's definitely hold on to that stuff.
Yeah. So think about it like this. If your 500 milligram Motrin is expired, and now it's only half of its effectiveness. So now your 500 milligram Motrin is still 250 milligrams of Motrin. It's still working. It's still effective. It just isn't quite as effective as it was when it was new and at its full potency.
Kill It and Grill It asked, in 1933, the U.S. government made all U.S. citizens turn in all of their gold. Do you think that could happen again?
Sure. I'm sure that, the one thing about it that's different with 1933 is that there was a lot of people out there that had gold because we were on the gold standard. Now, because it's not, I don't think that that's going to happen, but it's a possibility. So you need to have a good place to cash it. That's all I'm going to say. Okay, we've got about 5 minutes. Let me see. Okay, now I'm going to talk about just a few things for you to think about for finding barter items. Flea markets. Flea markets are a great place, not only to find barter items, but just to find prepping items.
That's right.
So this can kind of go both ways. But it's a great place to be able to find extra. You go somewhere and they have a bunch of shovels. You can maybe pick up a couple of extras and hold on to them. Handles break, even if it's just handles. That's one thing to think about. And people are going to need them because their handles are going to break. Axe handles, things like that, tool handles. Yard sales, another great place to be able to really capitalize with
That's
the money
right.
you have
That's
to
right.
be able to and having a yard sale and being able to bring some money in, into that. Going to gun shows. I've bought silver at gun shows, and sometimes they'll have these little canisters with silver dimes or quarters or whatever. And I have actually purchased them when I couldn't find the gun I wanted.
Pawn shops are a great place
Pawn
to
shops. Pawn shops are great. Farmers markets. Farmers markets. One thing you'll probably notice, though, is if things start to have some issues, you're going to find more and more places opening up. People are going to set up little markets, and they'll be trading, and they'll be doing some things. Third world. You look at third world countries, there's always markets. People bring their goods. They barter, trade, whatever.
And that's where most of the shopping and trading and selling is done in most other countries, are at these little small markets or these huge markets with tons of people there that all have these little booths set up. That's where a lot of your buying and selling and trading is done in most of your other countries. You don't have these huge supermarkets and these huge stores where you can go in and buy whatever you want. It's all done in these markets.
Right. That's right. And the one thing too is on the other side of that table is someone that had the skill or has the resources, and they've used those resources to bring goods to you. So again, skill and just labor are key ingredients to bartering, because it may not be that you're going and fixing a farmer's fence. It may be that you're out in the garden picking vegetables and bringing them to market to trade. And so the other thing is with that surplus, and whatever you have, you're going to have surplus. Take that surplus, be able to cash in, especially if you're taking in gold and silver. So again, precious metals, guys, it is a currency. It is something that when you don't have everything, you can trade and get what you do need or what you hadn't thought about. So again, to me, it's a very important part of bartering. So we really appreciate you guys being here today. Great questions. Thanks for all the really thoughtful questions. This is, of course, number 10 on the Prepper School. It will be in the playlist. We have now 10 volumes, so you can kind of check different things out. And so, we just want to build something for you guys to be able to go back. And a lot of times these questions are an important part of what we do. And we also appreciate, again, Scottsdale Mint for helping sponsor things that are our episodes. But guys, check out Scottsdale Mint. In fact, there's a link down below in the description. You can go straight to it, check them out, and let them know that I sent you, because I've known Josh again for 10 years, and just a really solid, good Christian guy. And they are a legitimate mint, and it's pretty cool what they do. Also, Sportsman's Guide, you get $20 off every $100 or more purchase, and using Sootch, just Sootch. And it's a great way to pick up things. I do. In fact, I'm getting ready to put out a video about the Wooby, and I couldn't find my Woobies because I got stuff. So I've ordered some new Woobies, and I got them in, and I got $20 off my price. So we really appreciate Sportsman's Guide for offering it to you as well.
That's right. And check out their Buyers Club. Buyers Club, you get additional savings as well as free shipping on the majority of the items that they have listed.
Right. I mean, it's just good. So, and we also really appreciate Robbie for being here and working together. He's part of our prepper group. And of course, we're big into guns and training. And training, guys, is very important, especially for your self-defense. But check out WheatonArms.com. Great Glock aftermarket parts. Again, I can't quit talking about that flat face trigger. I was shooting it yesterday in my Glock 19, and I'm just thinking this thing is so beautiful. It's so beautiful. But he also does conversion barrels, different barrels, and a lot of other parts, and of course, custom gun work. And also GoMedGear.com. And again, we just really appreciate Robbie for being here. Also, Sarah Mack for calling out the questions and kind of setting all this stuff up and keeping us in line, which is probably the biggest chore she has. So you guys take care. Hope you have a great new year, and get your bartering items together and just be thinking about it. The thing is, think outside the box. That's what we try to do. Improvise to survive. And there's just a lot of things that go into this, but it'll be well worth it, because I think we're headed for a rough time in our economy. Be strong, be of good courage. God bless America. Long live the Republic.